And the trapdoor, she said, was for safety. I build miracles that won't kill you. That's the only honest way to describe my job. I'm an illusion designer, the person who decides how a woman vanishes on cue and still keeps all her fingers, who teaches doors to open to no one, who tells steel when to pretend it's water. I draw traps that aren't traps, ladders you can climb in the dark, and boxes that would break your heart if you didn't know where the air was. Rhea says that's why she trusted me first. You make danger polite, she teased the day we met, one hand on the edge of a rehearsal platform, the other on my shoulder as if testing whether I would tip. She's a singer who dances like a dare, the sort whose tour needs 3 trucks for lights and 1 for attitude. When the label hired me to rebuild her finale, the one with the mirror maze and the vanish into smoke, she stepped off the stage after the first run and told me, very calmly, "If I die, your name lives in the program forever." "Then you won't die," I said, and meant it the way a locksmith means a promise. We fit in a way people hate admitting. 2 professionals who like control and heat and the kind of timing you can only practice at midnight. We ate too late, we slept too little, and we changed cities with the speed of a lie. Our bodies learned each other in trucks and backstage corridors, and a hotel room that pretended it was a break from the show. She has a habit of hooking her finger into the belt loop of my jeans when she wants the room to forget itself. I have a habit of giving the room permission. The trapdoor argument began, as all bad things do, with a good reason. The old mechanism under stage left was temperamental, a heavy plate on tired springs mapped to a rope release we hid under a false stair. You could stomp there all night and not find it unless you knew the rhythm. 3 beats, then silence, then weight where no weight should be. We taped a neon warning line beneath the deck for the crew, not the audience. You learn to make safety look like scenery. 2 weeks into the tour, the venue in Rivergate sent me a photo from their stage manager, a hairline crack along the plate's hinge. I flew overnight, crawled under the deck at noon with a headlamp and a prayer, and found the culprit. A warped bracket that looked fine in daylight and lied at 10 p.m. I replaced it, added a second catch, and because the room had started to make me nervous, installed a spare trapdoor on the opposite side, tied into the same run line, masked into the choreography like a rumor. I marked it in chalk under the deck where only rats and magicians go. Safety. Rhea found me under there, grease at the corner of my mouth because I chew pencils when I tune springs. She crouched, dress grazing the scuffed 2x6, and peered into my dark as if it was part of hers. "You're making a second exit," she said, equal parts impressed and annoyed. "Only in case," I said. "The hinge lied once, I don't forgive steel." She glanced over her shoulder in that way that means a room is listening. "Keep it between us," she said. "Stage managers love extra doors until they're invited to use them." We sealed the deck and ran the cue. The first trap behaved, the backup stayed quiet, and the audience screamed when she vanished, which is how I pay my rent. That night, the label's money showed up in a suit with a watch that wanted to be recognized. He shook my hand like a man who thinks hands are contracts. "You're the one who keeps her alive," he said. "Good. Keep the noise down while you do it." His name was Leon. He had the clean, easy posture of a donor who believes his gravity is philanthropy. He started hanging around after sound check, casual as a backstage pass, with that kind of attentiveness that reads like hunger when you're tired enough to mistake it for help. Rhea teased him because that's her defense. Give a man a joke to hold, and he might not reach for your wrist. The first time I knew the trapdoor had become a story we weren't telling, it was the light. I was under the deck replacing a fogger hose when a phone's flashlight licked through a seam and stayed too long, like someone learning the outline of a map they intended to travel alone. I froze the way prey does when the world tries on Predator. Footsteps. The quiet click of a woman who knows what heels sound like on plywood and doesn't always need the sound. "It's here," she whispered, not to me. "By the brace with the blue mark." Leon's voice, lower than the deck once. "You'll show me." "After," she said, and the trapdoor suddenly had nothing to do with emergencies. That show, she vanished on cue and reappeared 10 seconds later in a fog burst stage right, and the house tried to swallow itself, which is when you know you've done your job. After Bose, I found her in the wing with a towel around her neck, eyes too bright. "You leaving with the crew?" she asked, too casual. "Zipping the spare," I said. "It stuck for a breath when you went over. You didn't feel it." "I felt you," she said, which is a sentence that works until it doesn't. Leon started arriving with coffee too early and whiskey too late. He complimented my engineering in a way that made me want to sand my hands clean of praise. "You build options," he told me, standing too close to the rope lock. "That's very forward-thinking." "You build pressure," I said. "That's very on-brand." He smiled like money and didn't move. The night it broke was a city that smelled like rain, which always tricks me into being sentimental. We were in a stone theater older than anyone's marriage, the kind where backstage still has copper pipes and gossip carved into lintels. The run was tight until Q84. Rhea vanished beautifully, the panel snapped back. The fog coughed twice like a smoker, the backup trap hummed in its sleep. After the final bow, the crew poured into the hall like a spill. I went under the deck to wipe the fogger manifold because machines reward attention. Voices, low, close, where the spare trap gaped like a secret mouth. Her laugh, the whispering one, the one that is mostly breath and a small confession that she can't help enjoying being wanted. His voice bent to it. 10 minutes, he said, the way men with chauffeurs measure time. The door above me settled, weight shifting over the plate. I reached up, palm flat to steel, feeling the ghost of a heel with my bones. I don't know why I didn't make noise. Some part of me wanted to know which version of reality would win if I let it try. The plate lifted a hair on a hinge I'd made too smooth. A hand slid into the dark and found the brace I'd marked in chalk, safety. "It's here," she whispered, and something in me tilted. I rolled out of the crawl, wiped my hands on a rag I suddenly hated, and met them in the corridor like I was arriving instead of hosting. "Don't practice on the machine," I said quietly. "It learns your weight." Rhea froze, then found her face and tried it on. "We were checking for safety," I said, and my voice was the kind you use on teenagers and thieves. "That's what it's for." Leon raised both palms, generous. "We're all on the same team," he said, "the kind of team where someone always gets benched. Don't be precious." "Don't be here," I said. He laughed softly, the way men do when they believe they'll never have to move. "I go where the investment is." Rhea looked at me then, really looked, the way she does when choreography stops being rehearsal and starts being confession. "I asked him to see the run in case the stage manager keels over," she said, which could even have been true if truth didn't flinch from that sentence. We didn't yell. The crew were 5 feet away, stacking truss. The theater was listening. I did what I do when a rope slips and tries to take your hand. I gripped harder. If the spare exists, it's because I don't trust the first. I held out my palm. "Keys." Leon's eyebrows lifted, amused, because men like him think keys are metaphors. Rhea reached into her pocket and produced a flat steel rectangle with a milled notch, a deck wrench, not technically a key, but she knew what I meant. She placed it in my hand like a coin you should never have had to earn. Her fingers brushed my wrist. I felt the familiar thud in my chest that I never managed to time right. We loaded out with that particular silence crews develop when the wrong conversation happened too near the wrong ears. On the bus, she took the seat opposite Fine. She stared out the window at a city we didn't deserve. Near midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from her that just said, "Room," the word we use when schedule needs a softer word than sorry. She opened the door in a hotel robe like a parody of Mercy. She closed it with the toe of her foot. She crossed to me in 3 strides and kissed like she was trying to memorize the map again. We startled the bed with our honesty. I couldn't fix anything with my mouth, but I tried. I pushed the robe off her shoulder and listened to her change keys under my hands. She turned and arched, and I made the floor disappear for her without needing hardware. When we were breath-wrecked and splayed, she splayed a hand over my chest like she was holding down a page. "He makes it easy," she said. "I am allergic to easy." "He makes it expensive," I said. "I am allergic to that." We made rules because that's the only religion I know. No demonstrations after show unless the stage manager is present. The trap stays between us and the people who bleed if it fails. If she needs air, she texts me rope, and I meet her in the wing with a bottle of water and my palm flat to her back until we find timing. If I am scared, I say scared and not clever. If she is lonely, she says lonely and not bored. We wrote them down on hotel stationery and signed like idiots. Leon tried to be inevitable. He appeared with new ideas for the show he hadn't paid to build. He suggested a mid-song vanish from the runway, using the spare because it's less fussy. I said no in the tone that makes production managers grateful. Rhea backed me in public and apologized in private for letting him get to the place where he thought he could ask. I rebuilt the spare to ignore weight that wasn't ours. There's a trick you learn with pressure plates. You can teach them a person. I calibrated the springs to the exact lie of her heels, the way she distributes herself when the music hits the downbeat, the difference in her balance when she's hot with applause versus cold with fear. If Leon found the brace again, the plate would hum under his palm and refuse. We finished the run in smaller cities that don't pretend their trapdoors are metaphors. We learned how to keep the air on our side. Our bodies did their work, hers like fire theft, mine like repentance. In one forgettable hotel, we showered at dawn and she pressed her lips to the hollow above my collarbone and said, "I don't want a safety that needs a man," which is both a politics and an erotic. And I said, "You don't." And then she pulled me down and proved the rule wrong for 30 minutes in a dialect that made the day stand at the door and wait. On the last night, the hinge on the primary trap sighed in a way I hated. I'd been nursing it for a week. I swapped the plate during sound check, retuned the springs, and trusted the metal as much as I trust anything built in a hurry. Just before her vanish, she glanced over her shoulder into the light like she always does, that tiny, feral smile that tells me the trick is a pact. She went over clean. The house tore itself open with noise. For a moment, amid fog and hysteria, I felt the backup hum, not with weight but with want, and then let go. It was the machine learning something about us I hadn't taught it. After the final bow, she grabbed my wrist backstage and dragged me down the stair into the crawl, crazy enough to be daylight. "Show me what you changed," she said. We squatted shoulder to shoulder under the deck, the chalk word safety ghost pale under the brace. She touched it and then touched my throat and then kissed me like we weren't in splinters and cobweb. I slid my hand along the warm iron of her back, and her breath did that small, helpless thing I live for. We stopped because I like surviving my own work. Leon came to say goodbye with a bottle and a posture. He tried to be gracious and saw he wasn't needed. 3 weeks later, I heard he'd been reassigned to strategic partnerships, which is a euphemism for being told to invent a different room. The tour went on without him. The hinge behaved. The spare slept. Some nights I still wake up thinking about the moment above my head when her heel pressed the steel and my palm caught the weight. It wasn't romance. It was physics. The way bodies decide to trust the world because you convinced them they could. I roll over, find her shoulder, slide my fingers under the strap of whatever she wore to fail at sleeping, and make a different door open. She gets the look that makes me greedy and says, "Now," like it's a cue that always belonged to us. I still build miracles that won't kill you. I still hide exits under floorboards because the world fails quietly before it fails loud. But I have one more rule chalked under every deck now, at the edge of the brace where only people who belong read. It says, "Don't use this to cheat. Use it to live." Rhea laughs at me for writing to wood. Then she leans down, kisses the chalk, leaves a little smudge of her mouth where nobody will ever see it, and says, "I'll be good," with that wickedness that makes promises behave. I believe her, not because she owes me, but because I built a second door and watched her choose the first. People think the trick is the vanish. It is. It's the reappearance. The miracle is not when she drops out of the world. It's when she comes back exactly where you said she would, breathing like she made the air herself, and looks for me with the sort of relief that can't be staged. That's the only cue I ever needed. That's the one I keep tuning for. Out, then in, then us, still here, trap closed, spring easy. The stage, remembering it, is a room we survive on purpose.